This girl woke up to find she had the most handsome husband in the city, only he was mute. Even so, she decided to live a happy life with him, since he was handsome and wealthy. In fact, that morning, when she woke up, she discovered she had traveled into her favorite novel and become the villainess. In the story, that villainess married the mute CEO, despised him, and asked for a divorce, but ended up dying in an accident. However, this girl who was kinder did not despise the CEO. Hiding her true identity, she asked him to live a harmonious life together. At night, she tried to communicate with him. When she saw how the CEO wrote in order to speak with her, she couldn't help showering him with praise, saying his handwriting was beautiful. The CEO, in silence, could only act shy. The girl was very happy, knowing he didn't dislike her. Later, she saw her husband's sculpted body, but the CEO closed the door. "My husband has no feelings for me, so I can only look but not eat," she thought. She realized she was having naughty thoughts about the CEO, so, politely, she decided to keep her distance from him. The CEO accepted the respect she showed him, but in the early hours, he woke up to feel the girl groping his body and kissing him, without permission. He pushed her onto the bed and, in retaliation, kissed her back passionately. However, none of this was real. It was only the girl's naughty dream. At dawn, the CEO was already awake. He had had to endure the girl touching his whole body while he slept. When she realized, she apologized immediately, but he showed her that his body was covered with kiss marks, so he was upset. When the CEO left, the girl cried out in embarrassment, calling herself a monster. But he, having heard her, only smiled. The maid handed the girl the credit cards the CEO had left for her. The girl, delighted, told herself she would spend her whole life making love to the CEO. "I'll spend my whole life making love to my little CEO." Lumi went to work. At the office, seeing how kind she was, her coworkers thought she was acting strangely. Even so, Lumi was happy because she had a great job. She ran into Yancy, who in the novel was supposedly her friend, but Lumi knew Yancy was just a fake friend, who wanted to make her look bad in front of her husband and marry him. So Lumi told her she knew she was a bad woman and asked her to stay away. Now happy, Lumi texted Fancy, her husband, telling him she was going to buy a beautiful vehicle. Fancy rushed back to the mansion. The secretary, after seeing the messages where Lumi said she had bought a luxury vehicle, got angry. But when Fancy saw Lumi on a motorcycle, smiling with joy, he felt he was only now getting to know his wife, since he had never paid her enough attention. She could only smile at her new purchase, while Fancy watched her in silence. Lumi saw the servants were about to throw away the food sent by the villainess's parents, but she stopped them. Although she was no longer the villainess, she envied her because at least the villainess had parents. In real life, Lumi was a sad orphan. Still, determined to live a good life, she said she would cherish them. Lumi told Fancy she was going to visit her parents. He wanted to go with her, but she insisted on going alone. Before leaving, Lumi offered Fancy the spicy food her parents had sent. Even though he hated spicy food, he gladly accepted it. However, he couldn't eat much, and Lumi accidentally spilled water on him. She quickly tried to wipe his pants, but Fancy asked her to stop, since the maids might think they were doing something inappropriate. When Lumi arrived at her parents' house, they were worried. In fact, the one who was supposed to marry Fancy was her cousin. But because that cousin despised Fancy for being mute, Lumi ended up marrying him instead. What the cousin never knew was that Fancy was actually a millionaire. That same day, the cousin and her mother went to visit Lumi's home. The cousin only wanted to mock her, since she now had a millionaire boyfriend. But Lumi, happier than ever, posted on social media, "Admire him. He's my husband, Detective Conan." When Fancy saw the post, he got jealous and asked his secretary to investigate who this Detective Conan was. Meanwhile, the aunt and the cousin kept looking down on Lumi. Outside, the cousin's boyfriend arrived, a much older man who, although the cousin didn't find him handsome, served for showing off. Jealous, the cousin accused Lumi of wanting to steal her boyfriend out of envy. Tired of it all, Lumi replied that she already had a rich husband. She got into a luxury car and drove off in front of everyone. making the cousin's boyfriend feel embarrassed and leave as well. Fancy, still jealous, went home. But when he saw Lumi calmly drawing, he felt at peace. My little wife is at home, not with another man, he thought. Lumi accidentally slipped, causing Fancy to fall on top of her. His shirt popped open, and the CEO's defined abs were exposed. Shy, Fancy quickly ran off. Later, in his study, Fancy began seriously investigating his supposed rival, Detective Conan. When he discovered Conan was an anime character, he couldn't help but smile. As for Lumi, she went to shower and found that Fancy had adjusted everything to her petite height. Grateful, she called him over to the bed. He shyly refused, but she pulled him under the covers and showed him her gleaming watch. That made Fancy think Lumi was so innocent that he couldn't help watching her a little longer. With a smile, Lumi said, "I have 2 watches. I'll give you one." Fancy happily accepted the gift. Fancy learned that Lumi was entering a competition with a beautiful entertainment plan she had devised. He thought she was truly capable, so he attended the event. Jancy showed up there and tried to seduce Fancy, but he didn't even notice her. He only had eyes for his wife, who greeted him tenderly. Although Fancy kept a serious face, he was happy. When Lumi was about to present her work, Jancy turned off all the lights and shoved her, but Fancy saved her because he could see her thanks to her glowing watch. Lumi discovered someone had locked her computer, but in front of everyone, she managed to unlock it and present her work. Fancy could only smile as he watched her win. Later, Lumi received the news that a businessman had invested in her project. Happily, she said she would kneel before him, but when Fancy found out, he texted her saying she didn't need to kneel. Lumi began to flatter him, but he wrote back that flattery would get her nowhere. Then she took his hand, which made Fancy feel delighted. Lumi said she would help treat his condition and stay by his side. The next day, Fancy, angry with Lumi's bad friend Jancy, had her arrested and thrown in jail. When Fancy arrived at work, he overheard an employee saying that, when you're in love, you want to be near that person even while sleeping. That made Fancy remember he liked sleeping close to Lumi's neck. Little by little, he began to realize he was falling in love with her. Lumi managed to have her boss appoint her as the leader of a variety show event, but a coworker maliciously commented that she must be sleeping with, or doing favors for, the bosses to get ahead. Even so, Lumi happily drank a little wine at home. When Fancy arrived, he lovingly carried her to the bedroom. Drunk, she kissed him. Fancy was surprised it was his first kiss, but he liked it so much that when she stopped kissing him, he wanted to try kissing her back. However, Lumi fell asleep. That night, Fancy couldn't sleep. He just watched Lumi. When Lumi woke up and saw Fancy in the bathroom, she wanted to leave, but Fancy insisted that he wanted to start sharing the bathroom with her, so they brushed their teeth together. That made Fancy happy. Lumi was always kind to him. Lumi's cousin, upset that Lumi now seemed to be a rich woman, started digging. She could only bring herself to believe that Lumi was doing shady things to get money. She then talked with one of Lumi's co-workers, hinting that Lumi was surely sleeping with some boss to get money and promotions. The co-worker, annoyed, made a public post accusing Lumi of sleeping with the bosses. Fancy heard the news and told Lumi to wait because he would pick her up from work. Lumi's boss called her into his office and asked if the rumors were true. She said no. Then the boss discovered that Lumi was Fancy's wife. All the employees thought Lumi had been fired, but she said she had actually been entrusted with even more important work. As she left, Lumi's coworker kept saying she didn't deserve the position and that she slept around. The cousin was thrilled, thinking Lumi would be fired. But just then, Lumi left work and a car pulled up for her. Fancy was inside. He stepped out and changed Lumi's shoes for her. He wanted everyone to see that his wife wasn't easy and that he cherished her. Thus, Lumi introduced Fancy as her husband to her co-workers. Still angry at the slander against her, Fancy had the co-worker who defamed Lumi fired. Meanwhile, the cousin's mother accused Lumi in front of her parents of sleeping with men, but Lumi's mother showed proof that Lumi was married to a millionaire. All the neighbors then scolded the cousin's mother. When the cousin learned that Lumi was the wife of a handsome millionaire, she felt a deep envy. Fancy took Lumi to the family home to visit his grandfather. Since Lumi believed Fancy didn't love her and only saw her as a friend, she suggested they pretend to be affectionate. So Fancy, tenderly, held her by the waist, prompting all the staff to call her the Lady of the Manor. When Lumi met the grandfather, they got along so well that she managed to make him laugh. Unthinkingly, the grandfather said Fancy couldn't laugh because he was mute. Fancy felt sad, but Lumi replied that when he did laugh, it would be the most beautiful laughter of all, and that she would help him get there. Fancy began receiving treatment. The grandfather told Lumi that when Fancy was a child, he and his parents had a car accident. His parents died, and little Fancy screamed so hard for help that he damaged his throat. Although he recovered physically, he never spoke again. Seeing his suffering, Lumi came closer and hugged him. When Fancy opened his eyes and saw Lumi, he wanted to speak. He parted his lips and let out a faint sound. So gentle, Lumi praised his progress. The grandfather noticed she truly cherished Fancy, which put him at ease. He gave Lumi a lot of money because he trusted she would help him regain his voice. Happy, Lumi accepted. Then she tried to scare Fancy by saying the company's stock was losing money, but Fancy wrote that he was still rich. The next day, Lumi went to Fancy's company claiming she was his sister-in-law and that she was pregnant with his child. She thought that would make him speak, but Fancy wrote that he would allow her to give birth to the baby at home. At home, Lumi locked the bathroom door, but forgot Fancy had many bathrooms. So he entered through another and she told him that if he spoke, she would let him in. But Fancy, acting seductive, went into the bathroom anyway. Days later, Fancy noticed Lumi was distracted. He thought she was sad because of him, so he decided to resume his treatments. He saw a post from Lumi saying there was no food. He told her not to eat anything because he wanted to take her out for French cuisine. Just imagining Lumi's excitement made Fancy smile. That day, Fancy invited Lumi to an event. She wore a beautiful dress that made him feel even more drawn to her. At the party, Fancy introduced Lumi as his wife. But seeing that she was hungry, he let her enjoy the event. A rich girl approached Lumi and, seeing her eat, insulted her, saying people like her shouldn't attend gala events. Lumi recognized her. It was the woman Fancy had rejected in the past. So the mean girl told Lumi that only a woman like her would go for a mute man. This angered Lumi. She called her trash and shouted that Fancy was the best man in the world and that the real trash was that arrogant girl. Fancy heard all of it. Lumi covered his ears and told him he wasn't trash for being mute, that he was the best. Fancy threw himself into her arms. He knew she would protect him. Fancy confessed to Lumi that he hadn't been able to save his parents, but she comforted him. She told him he had been just a child, that he did everything he could, and that made him amazing. When Fancy noticed Lumi was about to be struck by a falling glass block, he shouted her name and pushed her away. He was very worried, but Lumi was happy because Fancy had spoken. Fancy ordered the culprit to be arrested. It was the mean girl. He threatened to send her to jail. Lumi asked the doctor about Fancy's condition. The doctor said there was hope, though the process would be slow. This made Lumi very happy and made Fancy feel even more affection for her. Days later, Lumi had to look after a superstar and would have to travel. Fancy saw her off, but also saw her approach Nanan, a famous singer. Fans were commenting that surely Lumi would fall in love with him, but Nanan warned Lumi not to fall for him or harass him, because in the past the villainess had pursued him. Now the villainess had disappeared. Only Lumi remained. So he told her not to worry. Later, Lumi protected Nanan from an attack. He thought Lumi loved him, but she was just doing her job. When Fancy returned home, it felt lonely. He missed his outgoing, cheerful wife. Lumi made a video call, which made him very happy until Nanan appeared, teasing Lumi and provoking Fancy's jealousy. He then ordered an investigation into Nanan and discovered he had been the villainess's first love, his wife Sam. But he didn't know Lumi wasn't the same woman. Seething with jealousy, Fancy called Lumi and said when Lumi returned, she saw a box and thought it contained the grandfather's ashes. But Fancy wrote that the box held his entire inheritance and that he was giving it to her. Deep down, he believed that by handing over his fortune, he could make sure Lumi wouldn't leave him. But Lumi was so innocent, she kept all her money in a shoebox. Lumi told Fancy he could ask for whatever he wanted. He wanted to caress her, but Lumi thought he wanted a lock of her hair and screamed. Fancy intended to kiss her, but Lumi got a call she had to go to the hotel with Nanan to look after him. This angered Fancy, who started boxing. Lumi saw him, then left. She went to a hotel owned by Fancy's family, but since they didn't recognize her, they told her there were no rooms available. Her cousins showed up and mocked her, but when the staff learned who Lumi was, they did everything they could to find her a room. Lumi wanted to give Fancy a gift, so she texted him, inviting him to the hotel's hot springs. When the secretary heard about it, he told Fancy that his wife surely wanted to sleep with him, so he'd better get ready. He set out to prepare his beloved boss to win over his lady boss. First, Fancy got a haircut, then they sent him to get waxed, and, as a final touch, the secretary gifted him a handsome pair of briefs. He was certain his boss would conquer his boss lady that night. He even applied perfume. Delighted, Fancy gave the secretary a raise. Excited, Fancy went to the room where Lumi had asked him to meet. She showed him the posters she'd made for her variety show. When she mentioned a gift and said it was something he'd always wanted, Fancy got excited, closed his eyes, and waited for a kiss, but she handed him a pair of boxing gloves. Disappointed, Fancy cut the secretary's salary, and the poor man was heartbroken. His boss didn't appreciate his efforts. Lumi kept preparing materials for her show while her aunt and cousin made fun of her. Fancy arrived, covered Lumi with a blanket, and all the staff greeted Lumi and Fancy as their bosses, shaming the aunts. Lumi asked an employee to prepare a hotel room, but the employee, thinking the dear bosses would spend a special night, decorated it romantically. When Fancy arrived, the room was full of ornaments. Embarrassed, Lumi said she hadn't arranged any of it, but when the food arrived, it turned out to be sexy men's clothing. Lumi kept denying everything, and to top it off, the employee wished them a lovely night. Lumi insisted she wasn't a pervert, but Fancy didn't believe her. While Fancy helped Lumi with her posters, she got a call from her coworker. They started laughing about the handsome guys in the show, saying they were very sexy. Fancy got angry because Nanan was one of them. Annoyed, he climbed into the bathtub. The secretary texted him, saying they planned to hire Nanan. Fancy was furious, but the secretary insisted all the girls loved Nanan. Irritated, Fancy sent the secretary a voice message. "If you like that model so much, then I'll pay him with your salary." Hearing that, the secretary felt his heart shatter. His boss hated him. The next day, Lumi texted Fancy that she'd be coming home. Happy Fancy spoke up for the first time during the meeting. "The meeting is over." The secretary asked about the gloves, and Fancy spoke again, saying his wife had given them to him. He then ordered a luxury car orange to be bought as a thank you gift for his wife. Fancy pulled up in the orange car and told Lumi it was a present for her. He said he'd seen her post where she wrote that everyone had a luxury car, so he bought one for her. Jokingly, Lumi said she would post all her wishes on social media so he would fulfill them. Then she clarified she was kidding, but Fancy replied, "Yes, I'll make all your dreams come true." Fancy tried to take her hands, but Lumi got a call and had to go back to look after Nanan. Now, Nanan seemed interested in Lumi. He was attracted to her personality and wanted her to like him again, but Lumi only wanted to keep him at a distance. Fancy heard it would rain that night. He called Lumi, but she didn't answer. So Fancy appeared at the restaurant and staked his claim. He put his hand on Lumi and called her wife. That way, Nanan knew Lumi was married. Happy, Fancy took his wife away. The whole way home, Fancy just held her hand. A friend told Lumi that Fancy was a cold, ruthless businessman who always crushed his opponents, but no one knew how he treated his wife. Lumi soon discovered he was a jealous man. He asked her to close her eyes and kissed her without restraint. For the first time, he lost control and kissed her passionately in the car. When she pulled away, he told her to breathe and kept kissing her. Neither of them had kissed anyone before, yet Fancy seemed to be in control. When they got home, Lumi was embarrassed, but Fancy calmly said, "It feels good. Kissing you feels good." The next day, Lumi almost had an accident, but Nanan saved her. Worried, Fancy went to see her. He found out that Lumi's former co-worker had caused the accident, so he personally punished him. Still, when Fancy saw how much Lumi seemed to care about Nanan just because he had saved her, he felt jealous. The secretary wanted to help, so he lied and said Fancy was injured. He even showed blood samples, though they weren't Fancy's. Fancy wanted to tell the truth, but when he saw Lumi was now worried about him, He went along with the lie. Nanan shouted that he was in worse condition. Fancy got angry, and the secretary hired a battalion of nurses to care for Nanan because their lady boss needed to look after her own boss. Nanan chased after Lumi and Fancy, saying Fancy was a liar. Fancy replied that he wasn't lying, that he feared for his life, but if she wanted, she could leave him alone. Lumi said she would take care of him. Fancy then taunted Nanan. While Fancy was alone in a hospital room, he started working out to stay in shape. Lumi caught him exercising. Fancy said he only wanted to keep his abs defined, since he knew Lumi liked looking at pictures of abs. He unbuttoned his shirt and told her she could touch his body. She backed away, but Fancy kissed her again, laid her on the gurney, and kept kissing her. Lumi realized Fancy wasn't injured. Fancy admitted he was jealous and didn't want his wife near other men. Then he took Lumi's hand and placed it on his abs to convince her. Tell me the truth. Do my abs drive you crazy, or is it me you really like? She kissed him, and he wanted to continue, but a nurse knocked at the door. The secretary said the patient would be resting late, so Fancy and Lumi slept in a hospital room. Back home, Lumi grabbed her favorite drink. He tried to tease her, then kissed her. When she responded, he kept kissing her. Lumi said her period had started, and Fancy replied that he already knew. That's why he had prepared a warm drink for her. Lumi realized Fancy had been talking more simply because he wanted to chat with her. They lay down together on the couch. Lumi told Fancy about a girl who was an orphan with no money, so she talked to herself and tried to be happy. But one day she met a man who couldn't speak, and he tried to, just for that girl. Fancy asked if the girl was her, but Lumi said to think of it as a story from parallel worlds. That girl loved herself very much, but discovered that being loved also felt good. Then Fancy told her he would love her as much as she loved herself. He kissed her while warming her belly. The end.